Now, we're told that massive protests are underway in Iran by those opposing the hijab. Now, several women have ended up even cutting their hair and burning their hijabs to protest against the death of a 22-year-old woman who was arrested for not wearing a hijab in a proper manner. Remember, we're talking about Mahsa Amini, who was a 22-year-old girl who was arrested by Iran's morality police. She ended up losing her life. My colleague Abhishek now joins me on the phone line. Abhishek, you know, protest erupting in Iran. Of course, this is something that has to do with the death of a 22-year-old woman. These scenes really say it all. Women have taken matters into their own hand, protesting with their hijabs, even burning them, cutting their hair. Just take us through all of that has ensued after the death of the 22-year-old girl here.
So we know that Iran there is a widespread social media outrage, and there is outrage on the streets of Iran also, and this all has happened in the wake of Mahsa Amini's tragic death, who was detained by the morality police of Iran 3 days ago, and within hours of her arrest, she was apparently taken to hospital, and the state officials are saying that she developed some cardiac problem and sudden cardiac arrest as a reason for death. However, her family and relatives and those videos that we have seen surface on the online, how the way she was detained and the brutality which was meted to her has clearly done enough damage or injuries to her, and probably that was also is believed to be one of the reasons why she has died suddenly, because she, according to her family, she was a healthy, normal person without any complication or illness history. However, many Iranians, including pro-government individuals, are now expressing their outrage on social media platforms and also the very existence of these morality police as to why should they be there at the first place. Those videos have emerged on the social media, where we have seen women chopping off their hair locks, and also women burning their hijab in a way to protest the so-called morality imposed upon her by brute force of the religious radical leaders. This is something that they have started disliking. This is a departure from a traditionally Iranian society, which has been very much covered by the religious fundamentalism and radicalism, which has been imposed by the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So the latest outrage that has happened is a reflection of something that has been simmering in the Iranian society for a very long time now, and this tragic death of Mahsa Amini has just given them a shape where now the outrage had come out in the public.
Right, Abhishek, important point that you made over here. Now, under Iran's Sharia or the Islamic law, women are supposed to be dressing in a particular way. However, this that we see at the moment is not new. The outrage when it comes to anti-hijab protests have also come out in the open in the past as well. However, this particular incident, of course, has left everyone shook, because 22-year-old woman that we're talking about over here, who allegedly dies in custody, of course, taken into custody because of the certain way she was wearing the hijab, which was not acceptable to the morality police over there. If you could just take our viewers through the background of this entire case and also how these protests really started.
So this is not the first time that it has been reported in Iran that there is a morality police who, they do try to capture our survey regions where women try to defy those orders which are apparently law by Sharia, because this is again this will be a conflicting issue, because various Muslim countries have their own way of defining Sharia and the way that describes how should a woman dress and how should a woman behave, or how should a society should see itself in a woman also. Like we were in Uzbekistan recently, and the Muslims there were quite progressive. We didn't see that much of hijab being there, but and we know that Uzbekistan is very much a Muslim population. So there is a wide divide, and basically this is a political tool which people say to suppress the women and to continue to contain their way of expression in the society for any political development. And this is how Iranians have tried to do in the past, and now they are seriously they are facing a difficult task, because women are now becoming more aware.
Absolutely. Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us with all those details when it comes to this story that we're tracking out of Iran. Also joining me on the broadcast is Ms. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, who's an activist Miss Ali, what we see coming out of Iran at the moment, how do you react to something like this? Of course, a death of a 22-year-old woman led to these protests, but these protests aren't new to Iran.
I think first of all, I would like to say that this is completely condemnable, deplorable, brutal, and completely unacceptable and un-Islamic. Islam has very little to do with this. Please note that Islam says that women should be decently clad and they should be modestly dressed, but this kind of a uniform that is being inflicted upon them is something that, each nation decides. And this poor child, when she, just showed a little part of her hair, she was caught up by the moral police. And what is this moral police meant for? One should look at Saudi Arabia today and the changes that have occurred. There is no moral policing, that it has been banned. Over there, the greatest of ulamas, the greatest of leaders have announced that, women all over the world do not wear this kind of an abaya like they wear, and they're very decent women. So that has been left to the choice of the woman. But what is happening here in these kind of countries is this kind of an imposed sort of a patriarchal interpretation which is being enforced. This is something that has to be very seriously looked at, and women cannot be treated today. Women women are being educated. Women are coming forward, and they have their own voices, and their voices have to be heard as citizens of a country who are saying something to you. It is my appeal to those people in power that they hear those women, that they hear their voices, that they hear the pain that is being caused, and a loss of life of a single citizen. Undoubtedly, I have seen that, previously Imam Khatami and the present government has condemned and said that the police, this matter has to be examined. But what right did the police have to pick up that woman and then say that this is a heart attack when the family has said there is no, there is no history of heart in that child.
Right, absolutely.
And overnight she dies. A citizen of your country has died because your policemen have been, brutally picking her up for a very small reason. And, there is naturally going to be an outcry and outrageous. This is outrageous and
absolutely
unacceptable.
And Ms. Ali, of course, the question of choice again comes to fore here as well. We are talking about the kind of protests that we have seen within the country when it comes to this hijab debate that is on, and what we are seeing in Iran. Of course, there are two sides to this story as well. Here, you're talking about the right to education and right for women to go out in a country like Iran, while on the other hand, of course, there would be detractors who would, of course, be talking about the fact that how hijab has really led to the derailing of education, or probably women who have chosen to wear the hijab are not allowed inside educational institutions just because they choose to stick to the attire of their choice. How do you respond to that?
See, my response is, the Supreme Court, the High Court, Karnataka High Court has been amply clear. What we are saying, what they were saying, and rightly so, that in an educational institution there is something that is called a uniform. And, for example, when you go to the court, you wear a uniform. The judges wear a uniform. You cannot dress as you choose. So, therefore, you see, the school has a uniform, and in that uniform, you have to cut the judgment has cut across all religions and said there should be no religious symbology that is outwardly reflective. So, whether you wear a saffron scarf or you wear another scarf over your hair, or you wear a big cross, something that is visible, because education is meant to equalize. It is meant to generalize. You are there to study for a purpose, so you can dress as you wish. The Constitution of India permits you to dress as you wish. This is only meant for a school. So when you enter the class, till the class you can dress as you wish, but when you enter the class, you are like any other student, and all those students who are there dress symmetrically. They are dressed in in a single fashion. Now, what's wrong with that judgment? So, you see, when we come to wearing of a veil, let us not confuse it with a gender. You can go shopping, you can wear your hijab the way you want it. You go out in your family gatherings or to weddings or to parties, you dress as you choose. This is for an educational institution for the purpose of education. And there is a rule and regulation that is meant. Like there is a rule and regulation in a court. Like when you go to